Do you know the secret of my baby powder? There's one secret you probably never knew about, and I'm going to reveal it to you, and you'll definitely be amazed by this discovery. Until now, we only knew that baby powder was used to keep skin soft and fragrant. But who would have thought that in creative hands, this powder could be transformed into something truly unexpected? And now we get to the most intriguing part. Here, I'm going to mix my baby powder with WD-40. Many of you are probably wondering what exactly happens when these two seemingly unrelated ingredients are combined. Here, I'm not just mixing by hand. I'm going to use a drill as a mixer to mix the my baby powder and WD-40 mixture more quickly and evenly. And now we move on to the next step. Here, I've prepared another container that I'll use to mix the PU thinner with the silicone glue. These two materials have different characteristics. One is runny and pungent, the other is thick and sticky, so I'm really curious to see how they'll react when combined. I added the silicone glue little by little, while stirring continuously to prevent it from clumping. The mixture began to change texture, appearing thinner, but still having strong adhesive power. At this stage, everything must be done carefully to ensure optimal results. Now, once these two mixtures are ready, we'll see how they work when combined or applied. Will the results live up to expectations, or will they bring unexpected surprises? Stay tuned until the end. Now I've thoroughly mixed both containers. Their textures have changed, and they look ready to move on to the most crucial step. And this is the moment I've been waiting for. I'm going to combine these two mixtures into one. And to ensure the best results, I'll stir it again using a drill. I'll slowly rotate the drill again, ensuring all the ingredients are thoroughly combined without any settling at the bottom. Here, I'm going to divide this mixture into two more parts. Why? Because I want to do different comparisons and tests on each part. Now this is where this experiment gets interesting, as we'll see the differences in results from different treatments. Now we focus on the first container. Here I will mix red dye, and this time the dye is in liquid form. I pour it little by little. The first mixture already has a clear identity, but the question is, will the addition of this liquid dye affect the strength or the final result? We'll find out soon in the next testing phase. Now let's move on to the second container. Unlike the first, here I'll be mixing in the green food coloring, but this time it's in powder form, not liquid like before. So obviously the process is a little different. I'll sprinkle the green food coloring powder little by little into the mixture. At this point, we have two mixtures with different characteristics, one using red liquid dye and the other using green powder dye. So, will this difference in dye type affect the final result? To ensure optimal results, I use the drill again to stir the mixture in the second container. Since the dye is in powder form, I wanted to ensure there were no remaining grains or clumps at the bottom. I ran the drill slowly at first, then gradually increased the speed. The texture looks smoother and more consistent, with almost no color difference between the two parts. Now both mixtures, the red and the green, are completely ready. There's just one more step before we move on to the proofing stage, and that's where we'll see the actual results of this experiment. Now I've prepared a piece of cardboard as a test medium. I've divided it into 3 equal sections so I can clearly compare the results. I'll apply the green mixture to the first section, the red mixture to the second, and I'll leave the final section unpainted for comparison. This is where the deciding moment begins. I spread each mixture evenly over its respective area, ensuring a roughly even thickness for a fair result. The differences are now clearly visible, red on one side, green on the other, and the bare area is still plain. Now all that's left is to wait for it to dry. At this stage, I applied the mixture very carefully. I made sure each stroke was even and not too thick or too thin, so the results would be truly fair when tested later. I slowly spread it evenly over the entire surface of the cardboard, following the lines I had drawn earlier. It is clear that the red and green colors are starting to cover the surface of the cardboard neatly, while the parts that are not given anything remain plain for comparison. And now we move on to testing on a different medium. Here, I've prepared a board that I'll be applying the mixture I made earlier. This allows us to see the adhesion and strength when applied to a harder surface, not just cardboard. I positioned the board in a stable position and began applying the mixture slowly and evenly. Here, I've also divided the board I prepared earlier into 3 sections, just as we did with the cardboard earlier. This ensures a fair comparison and clear results. I'll apply the red mixture to the first section, the green mixture to the second, and leave the remaining section undisturbed for comparison. I'll apply each section at roughly the same thickness, ensuring there's no difference in treatment on either side. And now we move on to the drying stage. Here, I'll dry both media, cardboard and board, directly under the hot sun. I'll place them in an area fully exposed to sunlight to ensure optimal and even drying. Once everything has dried completely in the hot sun, it's time for the most exciting part. I'll test it out on a board first. I've prepared some water and will spray it directly onto the surface of the board coated with the mixture. Take a look at the empty area. When I sprayed water on it, it immediately absorbed into the board without resistance, making the surface appear wet and darker. But now, look at the area where I've applied the mixture of powder, WD-40, PU thinner, and silicone glue. The water I sprayed on it hasn't absorbed at all. The droplets appear to be collecting on the surface. The area coated with the mixture actually became water repellent, as if it had a protective layer over it. At this point, the results began to become apparent, proving that this experiment was more than just a trial and error. Now let's move on to the cardboard test. Just like before, I'll conduct the test the same way so the results can be compared fairly. I first sprayed water on a bare section of cardboard. As you might expect, the water quickly absorbed into the cardboard fibers, making the surface soft. Then, I directed the sprayer to the area I'd applied the red and green mixture. This is where the difference began to become apparent. The water didn't soak in immediately like it had on the bare area. Instead, the droplets seemed to collect on the surface, with some trickling down. This shows that the layer we'd created was indeed providing a protective effect. This proves that the combination of ingredients we mixed earlier can form a fairly effective protective layer. This experiment truly yielded results I hadn't expected at first.